Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive on Reham Khan.
Okay.
But not the Reham Khan you might be thinking of. We're not talking about politics or news headlines. We're really going deep into her personal life through this memoir she wrote.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's all her own words.
It's one thing to read like a biography of someone,
Right.
but to get it from their perspective, like
Yeah.
their actual truth and how they saw things, that's always so fascinating.
Yeah, and you can really get a sense of how her experiences shaped her worldview. Like even going back to her childhood in Peshawar, she describes it as really close-knit, with lots of love from her father, and her mother was a big influence too.
Yeah, you can really tell like those early relationships, they really shape how you see everything.
Absolutely.
Like family dynamics later on in life, expectations, even your own role, like within a family.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it sounds like she had a bit of a mischievous side even back then. Like she got in trouble for helping a friend padlock their hair to a desk in Home X.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
That's hilarious.
Did you imagine?
I can totally see that, though. It's like this little hint of her challenging authority, even back then, which is interesting considering how her life plays out.
Yeah, it's like you can see those little seeds.
Yeah. And then at the same time, there's this deep respect for family and tradition, which she carries throughout everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that kind of leads us to when things start to change for her. She enters her teenage years. Zia's regime is changing the whole social landscape. And suddenly at 19, she's in an arranged marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, she even says that in college she felt like a hooded monster.
Yeah.
She was suspicious of men because of how much things were changing.
Wow.
It really gives you a sense that she had all these dreams, all these ambitions, but everything was kind of overshadowed by those cultural expectations.
Totally. And especially around marriage. Like that was everything.
Exactly. And speaking of marriage, she mentions this comment her husband made on their wedding night.
Oh, no.
I know, right? He compares her unfavorably to someone else.
On their wedding night.
On their wedding night.
Oh, my gosh.
You imagine. That just sets the tone for the whole marriage, like right off the bat. Talk about power dynamics.
Like a punch to the gut.
Yeah. And it really foreshadows all the challenges she's going to face.
Totally. Because her first marriage was not easy. I mean, she does experience the joys of motherhood. But she also talks about this immense struggle.
Yeah.
Like the relationship was so one-sided. You can just feel it in her words, like how much she wanted a real partner, someone to share the load of raising kids. But instead, she got...
What did she get? Indifference.
Yeah, like at best. She talks about constantly struggling financially, her husband not really supporting her. There's this story about her taking a cosmetics course.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't even for her. It was so that she could maybe make some money to support her family.
Wow.
Like she was thinking about survival.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is.
But you know what really shines through? Is her determination. Her resilience. She still finds a way to pursue her education with all that going on.
All those restrictions and judgments, too.
I know, it's crazy, right?
It's like she can't catch a break.
It makes you think about what you were saying earlier about her childhood, like how open and warm her family was. And then you compare that to the loneliness she describes feeling in her marriage.
And that's where the abuse begins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So hard to read about.
It really is.
You could be having this perfect life from the outside, but behind closed doors, it's a totally different story.
So true.
And it's not even just physical abuse. She talks about the financial control, like having to answer for every penny.
And that constant fear,
Right.
going over some tiny budget, even for necessities, that's control too.
Absolutely.
It's just invisible.
Yeah, and it can be so damaging.
It really can.
So with all of this happening, she makes the decision that changes everything. She leaves him.
Wow.
I know.
I can't imagine the courage that took, especially with 3 kids. And in a society where divorce is so stigmatized,
Incredible.
she had to completely rebuild her life.
It really shows you her inner strength, though.
It does. Like she refused to be defined by her circumstances.
Exactly. And that's where we see this turn in her life, where she starts to focus on herself and finding her independence.
Yeah, like she's taking control of her own narrative.
Yes. She throws herself into her education, ends up studying broadcast journalism, which is funny because later on that becomes a point of contention.
Oh, how so?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But it just goes to show you the double standards for women in the public eye,
Oh, totally.
especially when you dare to speak your mind
Mm-hmm.
and challenge the status quo.
Yeah, and she definitely does that.
Oh, yeah. She even talks about facing sexism in the workplace.
What happened?
She mentions this one senior editor
Okay.
who basically dismissed another woman's concerns by saying, oh, she's probably just jealous of how attractive Reham is.
You're kidding?
No.
Are you serious?
No.
It's like you can't win.
Exactly.
They're too pretty. You're not pretty enough.
It's like they're always trying to use your looks against you.
Totally.
Minimize your skills. Like you can't be both attractive and talented.
It's ridiculous.
That's so frustrating.
I bet it was exhausting for her.
Oh, absolutely. But she persevered, built this amazing career for herself, raised her kids as a single mom.
Wow.
And during all of this, her political views start to really solidify. Yeah, she talks about being drawn to stories from KP and Baluchistan, her ancestral lands. It's like those experiences, plus her own personal struggles, that all kind of ignited this passion in her for social justice, for giving a voice to people who are marginalized.
It's like all these different threads are coming together.
Exactly. And it all leads her to politics.
Which is a whole other chapter.
Oh, yeah.
A whole other deep dive.
We could do a whole series on this.
Right.
But it's interesting because she initially approaches it with this mix of idealism, but also a healthy dose of trepidation.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, can you imagine stepping into that world?
Especially after everything she'd already been through. It takes a lot of guts.
And speaking of trepidation, this leads us to another huge turning point. Her second marriage.
To Imran Khan. Okay, I see where this is going.
It's a whirlwind romance. All this initial excitement of finding love again. But even just reading between the lines, you get this feeling like something's off.
Really?
Yeah, like a sense of foreshadowing. Like when you're watching a movie and you know something bad is about to happen.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's that feeling. She even describes her wedding day as bittersweet. Like she had this intuition about the challenges to come.
Wow.
And you have to remember, at this point, Imran Khan is a huge deal.
Oh, yeah, he's already super famous.
Exactly. So she's suddenly thrust onto this national stage, subject to all this intense scrutiny.
Just by association.
Right. And that scrutiny is amplified even more. Because the public image of their marriage, it's so different from what she describes actually happening behind closed doors.
Okay, so, like, what's really going on?
It's like stepping into a whole family drama.
Oh, tell me more.
So she describes Imran's sisters. Says they have totally opposite personalities.
Oh, boy.
Right. And you can practically feel her trying to figure everything out.
You like find her place.
Exactly.
Build bridges where there aren't any.
Yes. And those bridges are constantly being tested.
Oh, bet.
She reveals all these glimpses into his behavior.
Like what?
Controlling, suspicious. And their lifestyles and values are just totally different.
So they're just on completely different pages.
It's like they're living in two different worlds.
So how does it all start to unravel?
Well, there's this story about Imran's dog. It bit her son.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. But it wasn't even about the bite itself. It was Imran's reaction, or lack thereof. That really spoke volumes.
What do you mean?
He was just so distant.
Oh, no.
Like cold almost.
Wow.
And that's when she realizes how different their priorities are. Like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Fairy tale starts to crumble.
And the cracks just get bigger from there.
Oh, yeah. Things get even worse when this smear campaign starts against her.
What?
Yeah, like within PTI circles. Imagine being surrounded by all these whispers, rumors.
But we have no one to turn to.
Exactly.
That's all.
Like she's totally alone. And the worst part, the one person she thought she could count on, he's not there for her.
Oh, my God.
Classic isolation tactics.
It is. Make you doubt yourself, make you feel like you're going crazy.
Right, exactly.
And reliant on the abuser.
Right. And it doesn't help that she's always in the public eye.
Oh, yeah. That just adds another layer of pressure to everything.
It's like she's trapped.
In this gilded cage.
Yes.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Because on one hand, she has to be this perfect political wife.
Yeah.
Always smiling, always supportive.
But behind the scenes, it's a nightmare.
It is.
What she's supposed to do.
She's dealing with his increasingly erratic behavior, the drug use.
Oh, wow.
And she's constantly terrified of saying or doing the wrong thing.
That sounds so stressful.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then she discovers he's been unfaithful.
No.
Yeah.
Not just a one-time thing.
No, like a pattern of deceit and manipulation.
Oh, my God.
It's like her whole world comes crashing down.
Of course.
She realizes she's been living a lie.
That's devastating.
It is. And this story she tells about a campaign rally in Haripur.
Okay. Yeah.
It really stuck with me.
What happened?
So at first, everything's great. She's celebrated, praised for all her contributions.
Okay.
And then overnight, it's like she's sidelined. Suddenly her presence is inconvenient.
Wow, that's harsh.
It is.
That's just cold.
Right.
And to do that so publicly,
I know.
it's like humiliating.
It's brutal.
It really is.
And it's like this microcosm of their entire relationship.
How so?
It's like he only values her when she's useful to him, when she's serving his purpose.
Oh, wow.
And the second she's not.
He tosses her aside.
Exactly.
That's awful.
And that need to control, to manipulate, it went beyond just the political sphere.
Really?
Yeah, she talks about him trying to isolate her from her family and friends. Like he wanted to create this world where she was completely dependent on him.
Classic abuser tactic.
Yeah.
Isolate them. Make them feel like they have nowhere else to go.
It's scary how textbook it is.
It is.
And of course, it all culminates in this incredibly painful divorce.
I can't imagine what that must have been like for her.
You can feel the betrayal in her words.
Yeah.
The heartbreak,
Yeah.
the sense of being used and discarded.
It would be so easy to let that experience define you.
Right.
Like to just crawl into a hole and never come out.
Totally.
But that's not what she does.
No, she doesn't.
And that's what's so inspiring about her story.
Okay, so tell me more.
Even after all that betrayal, all that public humiliation, she picks herself up and finds a way to move forward.
No.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
Like she could have just disappeared,
Yeah.
licked her wounds in private,
Right.
but instead she turns her pain into something positive.
What do you mean?
She focuses on her kids. They were her rock through all of it, and she really throws herself into her work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she uses her platform to advocate for things she cares about, especially children's rights.
She's always been really passionate about that.
Yeah, and you can tell it comes from a really genuine place. Like she's not just doing it for attention.
Right. She's really trying to make a difference.
Exactly.
And you can feel that fire in her belly now. This determination to use her voice, to challenge injustice. It's really inspiring.
She's not afraid to speak truth to power.
Not at all. And she becomes this advocate for other women, too. Women have gone through similar things.
That's so important.
It is.
Especially with abuse, it can be so hard to speak out.
Absolutely.
There's so much shame around it, and often you feel like no one will believe you. So to have someone like her, someone who's been through it, saying, hey, it's okay to not be okay, it's huge.
It's huge. And it's not just about the abuse. She talks about all these other important issues, too. Sexism. The way people chase power at all costs.
It's like she's pulling back the curtain, showing everyone what's really going on.
Exactly. She forces us to confront these systems, the ways we all contribute to them, even if we don't realize it.
Even unknowingly, it's uncomfortable.
It is.
Yep.
It's so necessary.
It is. And through it all, what I find so powerful is that she never loses hope.
I was just going to say that. You can tell she's gone through so much, but she still believes in the power of human connection, in our ability to make things better.
It's really remarkable.
It is.
Especially when you think about everything she went through with Imran, the betrayal,
Yeah.
the humiliation. It would be so easy to become cynical after that.
Right.
To just give up on love, give up on people.
Totally.
But she doesn't.
She finds love again.
She does. And not just romantic love, but the love of her children, her family, her friends, and the causes she's fighting for.
It's such a powerful message. Like, even in the darkest of times, there are still reasons to keep going. Things to be hopeful for.
It's a good reminder that there's always light, even when it feels like everything is dark.
Absolutely.
And I think that brings us back to the heart of what this memoir is all about.
Okay, I like that.
It's about resilience. It's about taking back your story.
Yes.
And finding your voice when the world tries to silence you.
So powerful. It's interesting because when you think about it, her life has been full of these ups and downs.
Oh, for sure.
Like huge moments of joy and then incredible heartbreak.
It's like she's lived multiple lives in one.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I think what's so inspiring is that she never lets those challenges define her.
She grows from them.
Exactly.
She learns from them.
And she comes out stronger on the other side.
It's really remarkable.
It is. And it makes you think about how we often just accept the narratives we're given.
Oh, totally. Like we see a headline or we hear some gossip.
Right.
And we just take it at face value.
We don't question it.
Yeah.
We don't dig any deeper.
Exactly.
But Reham story is a good reminder that there's always more to the story.
There's always another side.
Always.
And sometimes multiple sides.
Right.
It's not always black and white.
And I think that's what we try to do here on The Deep Dive.
Yeah, like look at things from different angles.
Exactly. Ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
Because that's how we get a more complete picture.
A more nuanced understanding of the world.
Exactly.
And of ourselves.
Yes.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Love it.
And that's something she's really open about in the book. Like, she doesn't shy away from the emotional toll it all took on her.
Right.
The anxiety, the fear.
Yeah. It's a reminder that healing isn't linear.
Exactly.
You can be strong and still have those scars.
Totally.
And I think her honesty about that, about how complex it all is, it makes her message even more powerful.
Absolutely.
Because it's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about acknowledging the messiness of it all.
Yeah, and that's something we don't talk about enough. Like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
You're allowed to struggle. You're allowed to have bad days.
And it's okay to talk about it.
Yes. Especially for women. There's so much pressure to just put on a brave face.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, we're supposed to be stoic all the time.
And just keep going no matter what.
It's exhausting.
It is.
But Reham shows us that it's okay to be vulnerable.
To let people see your scars.
Exactly. And when you do that, you give other people permission to do the same.
It's like you're saying, hey, I see you. And you're not alone.
It's so powerful. And that's why I think her story is so important. It's not just about her personal experiences, but these bigger issues that she's fighting against.
Yeah, like what?
Abuse, sexism, the way people abuse power.
It's like she's shining a light on all these uncomfortable truths, the things we don't want to talk about.
Right.
But we need to.
We do. And what I find so inspiring is that through it all, she never loses sight of hope.
I know, it's amazing, right?
It is.
After everything she's been through, you'd think she'd be so jaded.
Totally.
But she still believes that we can make things better.
She does. And it's not just wishful thinking. It's this deep-seated belief in the power of human connection.
In our ability to make a difference.
Exactly.
And to lift each other up.
Yes.
And it's not easy.
It's not.
It takes courage.
It does.
And strength.
But she shows us that it's possible.
She really does.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we should all strive to be a little bit more like Reham.
What do you mean?
A little bit more courageous, a little bit more willing to speak our truth, even when it's hard.
Even when it feels impossible.
Exactly.
Because our voices matter.
They do.
And we can make a difference.
We can.
Even if it's just one person at a time.
I love that.
So what do you say? Ready to dive into another deep dive soon?
I'm always ready. Let's do it.